Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's live Q&A session right here on my page. My name is Marcy Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist. And today I'm inviting parents to come on and give me some questions about your kiddos and their communication. So what I am hoping that you can do, it might take a couple seconds for this to go live and get people caught up. But if you have a question for me, I am a speech pathologist. I've been working in the field for 30 years, if you don't know me, and my mission now is to coach and consult with parents to teach them how to show your children how to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world. And I have been, like I said, I've been working in the field for 30 years. And over the years, I've figured out that it really isn't all about the speech pathologist. It is about the parents, because we're talking about communication here, and communication is fundamental for kids in survival. And so from the very moment you have your first interaction with your child, you're communicating with them. And it is the parent's job to teach your child all the skills they need to survive. And I think communication is one of those skills. Now, it happens very often. 1 in 10 children is late talking. So I know that there are many, many parents out there who have kids who are late talking. And if you, and they are late talking for many, many different reasons. Like I said, 1 in 10 children is late talking. So the thing is, today I am hoping to reach out to some parents to talk to you about the questions that you might have to sort of figure out why your child may be late talking. Now, your child may have a diagnosis or not, because like I said, 1 in 10 kids is late talking. So you're in good company if you have, a child who is not talking very much. Hi, Mariah. Thanks for joining me today. And Eve is there. I just was playing with my pen and it fell apart in my hand because I'm trying to take notes too. So if you are interested in joining me on this live, I'm more than happy to pop you on and ask, to have you ask me questions about your kiddo, and maybe perhaps together we can figure out what's going on to cause your child to be late talking. And that's what I do as an intuitive speech pathologist. So like I said, I work differently from other people. I'm just waiting. I see some people are popping on now. Waiting for a few more people to come on. I can tell you a little bit more about who I am and how I know what I know. I call myself an intuitive speech pathologist because I am also intuitive and a speech pathologist. And when I learned how to use my intuitive skills and teach parents how to use their intuitive communication with their kiddos, then that's when things really started to change for me. So, all right. So here's a question from Mariah. Thanks, Mariah. Mariah says, we just received the apraxia diagnosis and turned 4 the same day. Bummer. I know very little about what this means for us. Okay. So, just turned 4 and have apraxia diagnosis. So Mariah, if you're on here, if you wouldn't mind, can you jump on with me because I want to ask you some questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm sending you a little ad request to see if you can jump on. And when you get it, just turn your phone sideways like this, and hopefully you'll be able to join me on. It says adding. So maybe you can get on here and we can talk a little bit about your little guy and find out what's going on. It takes a few seconds for the Facebook Live to catch up. So thanks. I see there's a few more people joining me. There's Megan. Hi, Megan, and Nancy. Hi, Nancy. I'm waiting here for, hopefully, for Mariah to jump on. It says adding. So Mariah has a little one who just turned 4 and received an apraxia diagnosis the same day. So I have some questions about, oh, there she is. Hi, Mariah.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about your little one. Now, you have a son, you said,
Yes, Levi.
and, and Levi, okay, and he just turned 4. And so now, have you done other things before this diagnosis? Tell me a little bit about how you got to this situation.
Okay, so he has autism as well, but he used to talk in full sentences until he had his regression, and then we lost everything. And in the meantime, to communicate, we were using pet cards, and he just received an AAC device, but it's a little complicated for him right now. But he does most of his language with sign language or PECs. And
Okay.
we just started like an intake process with a new speech therapist last Friday, and she felt he had apraxia. So um,
Okay.
we didn't have time to talk about it. I don't know anything about that diagnosis. And we'll go back for a full evaluation this Friday. But in the meantime, this week, I'm like, what does that mean for
What
us?
does that mean? All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, how you ended up with your autism diagnosis. So he had a regression, you said. How old was he then?
Um, so he was diagnosed at 19 months, but he still had language at that time. And it wasn't until about 23 months that he lost every word that he had, but he was talking in sentences prior to
Okay.
that.
Okay. And so when he lost his speech, was there anything else going on that you think could have attributed to that change in your family?
We've, we've looked at everything and it just kind of happened. We're like all of the
Right.
causes that many parents think are didn't happen for us or wasn't our circumstance. We have no
Okay,
idea.
so there, it's okay. I mean, like I always ask this question because obviously, if there's something that we can point to, then we do. But it often happens with families like you. It's very interesting to see. Now, has he had speech therapy before this speech therapist?
He's actually had speech therapists since he was 8 months. This is our first time when we started school that we've had 2 month gap.
Okay, so was it early intervention therapy? And at 8 months, what was it that qualified him for speech therapy?
So at that time, he had the diagnosis of right spastic hemiplegia, so like a stroke in utero. And so that got him the cerebral palsy diagnosis, but he's actually lost that. He's perfectly gross motor skills are perfect. He has lost that complete diagnosis.
Okay, so he doesn't have that diagnosis anymore with his limbs or anything like that. And then was his eating, what was the speech therapist working on at 8 months? Was that eating and feeding?
Yeah. So we had a speech therapist, and she was just working on communication at that time. And then we also had a feeding therapist at that time, which was a separate lady. And she worked with us from 8 months till he was 3, right? Or 2? No, 2. Till he was 2.
Okay.
Um, and then he graduated from that program.
Okay. So because at that point he had started using words and he was, using communication then, right? Or he graduated
Well, he
from the early
graduated.
intervention.
Yeah, because
Okay.
they age out. So we
Yeah,
lost all those services, and then they
right.
started him in I'll call it an autism baby school.
Okay,
So
right.
then he
And
had
so
speech therapy there.
Okay. And in the autism baby school, did they work on verbal communication or did they work on PECs right away?
They worked on PECs.
All right. So, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so what could be happening and what happens a lot with kids who don't have real effective verbal speech is, especially when they get an autism diagnosis, especially when they get an autism diagnosis young, they put them into a program assuming that they don't have the ability to use verbal speech because in your child's case, he'd lost it or he wasn't using it or, whatever happened. Because you said if he was at 18 months, he was still using words. He was already had that diagnosis and he was in a program that was a lot of heavily nonverbal communication based. And so for his primary communication mode for himself, it is signs and PECs that have been what you have used. Now, have you used signs and PECs at home as well?
Yes, he uses them here and at school. With our family, he's much better at using sign language. I mean, he can communicate with about 50 signs on his own. Um, Even we took him trick or treating last night, and he was able to ask trick or treat, candy, please, and thank you. It was really cute.
Ah, yeah, very
But he
cute.
uses more PECs at school. He's
Right.
very good at using a visual schedule to move around the classroom from station to station and without help of an adult. Um, but I
Right.
do have to say, he has all of this language inside of him, and he graces us sometimes with just a quick 2, 3 word. It just randomly comes out, and it won't. You can't repeat it. He will not do it again. But it just
Right.
you turn and you say, What did you say?" Like,
Right.
because it came out,
Okay.
but he can't reproduce. It's really cute though.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah. So this is a really common scenario that happens, Mariah, with kids. So what happens often with kiddos who start out working in a school or therapy circumstance that is very heavily visual based. So they use the visual timers, they use the visual things because they assume kids with an autism diagnosis aren't able to process language the way that other kids process language. So they start to transfer communication to more visual ways, modalities, I guess I should say, to help kids get it faster because they assume that they're not processing language very well and that kids learn faster by imitating and modeling. And in typical autism kinds of schools, that's where it is. It's all about modeling behaviors for kids to imitate and using those behaviors to communicate. That's what sign language
Yes.
and PECs are, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what happens, unfortunately, to kids is that their own ideas and verbal language are limited by those visual circumstances
Yes.
because it's only the vocabulary that you're provided. Those 50 signs for a 4-year-old child is pretty limited. Now, you are really good at understanding those signs in your family because for you, one gesture might mean a lot of things based on where he is, what he's holding, what he's doing, all those things that he's communicating with you. And that works really well in your household. He's never gonna be good at using PECs as much as sign language with you because it's not natural communication. The signs he's using, the stuff he's coming up with, the gestures he's doing, the ones that he's learning on his own, that's the mode he's chosen to communicate with you effectively, and you've encouraged it. You've taught him the signs, he's using them, he's doing trick-or-treating and all of that. And the longer you continue to do that, the more he's going to lean towards those signs with your communication. Now at school, he's got a PEC system or an iPad system or something like that. They're going to focus all of their communication intervention on using that device and teaching him how to expand this nonverbal picture vocabulary system onto that device. You're heading down that path. You realize that, right? When you
Yes.
get this thing, this is your child's future is nonverbal picture-based communication. And all the intervention that they're doing is based on that. Now, the therapist who says he has apraxia, first of all, you have to understand something about apraxia. It's a neurological problem that isn't
Mm-hmm.
acquired, especially with a child who has this kind of a history. You don't just get apraxia. You're born with it. It's a neurological condition that causes
Oh,
all
okay.
kind. It's a neurological condition, apraxia. It means that your brain doesn't work coordination wise. If you had limb apraxia, you could raise your hand. The muscles would work just fine. Like this, I'm doing it with this hand so you can see. Your muscles would work just fine. But if you said raise your hand, you couldn't do it, or whenever you tried and wanted to raise your hand, you couldn't. Okay. So because he's been inconsistent with his production, that's one of the telltale signs of apraxia. But apraxia with a child that has all of these other issues going on, it's easy to rule it out actually, because
Mm-hmm.
there is the overexposure to verb. I think if you're going to ask me what out of my intuitive situation, and considering I've been doing this for 30 years and I've seen a lot of kids, you want me to tell you why your child's not talking? It's because he is relying 100% on a verbal based system, on a visual based system, sign language system. He's using the pictures at school because they tell him to. He's using the visual schedule to help him get around and process and pay attention. But you can do language facilitation to teach him. That's what's happening in my program. Like, I'm taking parents like you, showing you
Mm-hmm.
how to turn those sign language into verbal speech, like into
Okay.
real talking. And there's a way you can do it, but you have to start over. You can't teach signs on top of signs. You can't teach from the top down. Your son had a problem that stopped him from learning auditory speech. It
Okay.
transferred his system. There was a period of time when he was supposed to be learning language that he couldn't. Okay, he couldn't pay attention, maybe, and it happens a lot with kids who are delayed in physical ways. Okay, so walking and moving and that kind of stuff was his number one priority when he was born, right? I mean, that was it. He had this hemiplegia. His full focus had to be on getting his body moving again. The therapy focused on that. You focused on that. You don't even think about talking at that point. You think, my child can't move. I got to get him moving, right? That's your first priority. So you spent all this time during that priority focused on the physical, visual kinds of teaching you need to teach kids to move, and he bypassed that visual. He bypassed the auditory. He bypassed listening and processing. And so now listening and processing to language, he can process things in a global way and get main ideas, but he's not used to paying attention to the individual words that you're saying. So what you would need to do with language facilitation is to start over and reteach him English as if he didn't know it from the beginning. And the strategies that I would give to you would be things to start from the very beginning to reteach verbal communication, because he can do it.
Okay.
He's shown you. So my first question, I guess your main question was about apraxia, and my gut feeling
Yeah.
is I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's what it is.
Okay.
I think it's learned behavior in your case, and I think you can unlearn it. I think you can reteach it. So,
Okay. So, yeah, because we don't even, we'll have our full evaluation on Friday and she'll let us know if that's what she thinks. But, she did a quick 30-minute eval and played with him a little bit.
yeah.
And she said that his mouth and lips are capable of doing the sounds. She didn't see anything there, but she didn't know.
Yeah.
She was asking
Yeah.
him there.
So, aw,
Can you say
hi,
hi?
little guy.
Can you say hi? Can you
Hi,
say
who's
hi?
this strange lady on the TV, on the phone? Hi.
You want to say hi?
Do you see you? I see your eyes.
Mm. Yeah. You want to say hi?
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
He just woke up for
Yeah,
school.
it's all new. Yeah. Okay. So, Mariah, if you want to know more, what I'm going to do is I'll pop you off of here right now. Have you seen my free class on my website? Have you checked it out at all?
I've heard of it. I haven't checked it out though,
Okay.
so I can
So,
do that.
yeah, check out my free class. And if you want to set up a free consultation to find out how exactly that can work with you, you can do that after the class. So, why don't you go ahead and do that? Check it out. The consultation's free while you're, get that going. We could talk more in depth about what kind of specific strategies I would recommend for you and how my program might work to be able to teach you. Because what I do is I coach parents like you how to start over and get them talking
Okay.
and get them using those words. So,
Okay.
and confident about it, because he doesn't, verbal speech isn't his deal. So, yeah, there, he's all back about it. Well, now he's all involved. Hi.
Can you say hi?
I see you. You waved at me. Hi.
Say hi with your mouth. Hi.
Ah, very
You're
fun.
being silly.
Okay, Mariah, I'm going to go ahead
Okay.
and pop you off of here and see if I
Sure.
can get another mom on. Let's see if I've got anybody
Okay.
else. Anybody else who's got a question? Thanks for joining me today.
All right.
And yeah,
Thanks.
and Nancy, one of my other clients is on here, and she says, "Sounds like my son sounds like your son, and I'm in Marcy's program, and she's seeing results." So thanks for sharing
Okay,
that,
good.
Nancy.
Yay.
So yeah, Nikki said, everybody thinks your son's adorable. All right, Mariah, I'm going to
Oh,
pop you
thanks.
off.
All right.
Thanks,
Okay,
and I'll
bye.
see you soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, that was really cool. So Mariah's case is really, really common, and it's early diagnoses, and it's also very common for kids to lose their ability to talk. And there are many things that cause those things, and we didn't talk about all the details about what could happen, but it's really helpful if I can pull a parent on who has a question and say hello and see what's going on. If there's anybody else that wants to join me, let's see who is here. All right, request there. I'm going to add Nancy. Okay, let's see if Nancy can jump on, because Nancy's case is similar to what happens with Mariah. So, like I said, it takes a few minutes or a few seconds for this to happen, but I love doing this kind of stuff. And, just while we're waiting for Nancy to come on, if you're watching this too and you want to know more about how this works, how waves of communication works, then, we can get you going. There's Nancy. Hi, Nancy. I haven't seen you for a minute. I need a little drink.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy since our trip.
I know. Hi, big girl.
Who's that?
Hello.
Who's on the screen, Miriam? You told me who it is. Is that Marcy?
Hi, Miriam.
No. I got the iPad out for the airplane ride.
Uh-huh.
And then, since we came back, it's been kind of floating around the house. So yesterday I locked it up.
Aha. Well.
Yeah. We've been continuing with the language facilitation, but not as much as we'd like to. And I finally had a minute to hop on. I'm nursing my baby. We had Halloween yesterday. Yusuf was Miguel from Coco. I think you saw the pictures. And I really enjoyed just seeing you talk with this lady just now, because her son looks just like Yusuf. And it's the same exact thing. 20-some months he had sentences, he had words, and then he just stopped. Yeah.
Aw, you hugging a baby. That's so nice.
I know you were asking for questions. I think about you every day. I'm talking to him, and I
Yeah.
about questions all the time, but.
Well, what I actually have a question for you while you're on, so you can maybe share with some other parents because I think it is helpful for parents to see. So when you, when you first reached out to me, what was going on with your situation? Did you have therapy set up, and, what was happening with therapy with you?
Yes, I had ABA therapy set up once a week, and I'm not too quick to jump on all of the different things available to me, because it's really simple answer, because I have a sister who has a daughter the same age as my son, and she's a public school teacher, so she knows how to take advantage of all those things. And then the other thing is, it's hard for me to cart my kids around, because there's 3 of them, to take them to appointments and things like that. And then another thing is, I'm kind of emotionally sensitive, and when I meet somebody, I don't like to just see them for a little while and then never see them again, so I didn't want to put Yusuf in that situation over and over again, where he's connecting to someone like they're his cousin or his sister or someone who cares and is spending one-on-one with them, and then he just never sees them again, because it's a paid relationship. So yeah, those are the different things. So when I saw this program, I thought, oh my gosh, this is good, because every time I pick up my phone, and now any of your people who have an iPhone app, the new update tells you exactly how much time you spend on your phone.
Oh. Uh-oh.
I thought mine was really bad, but then my brother, who's 20 years old, spends more than double.
Wow.
So that made me feel how bad. So that's what made me reach out to your program. Is I had the ABA. I didn't think it was quite working, and I saw these inconsistencies. Like the client you just had on, She said he was diagnosed with apraxia, but then she said he can sign for things whenever he wants. So, you know, what's missing in getting the words to come out with Yusuf, I honestly think it's just like a little bit of a maladaptive personality trait, because
Hmm.
he's stubborn.
Well, you know what? There's a lot. I wouldn't call it maladaptive because I think that everybody develops their personalities themselves, and Yusuf is great. By the way, Mohammed says hi. Hi, he says, hey, Yusuf. So the thing is, you know, that happens, I think, and it happened with you guys almost the same way that it happened with Mariah, is that, see, the thing is, Yusuf is really smart, and these late talkers are super smart, but they also are super strong-willed. So they learn to do things their way. And if communication is one of those things that they learn to do in their own methods, you know, as a parent, you go with it because you have to know what he wants. Ultimately, you need to, you know, you want him to say words, but especially for kids who had words and then lose them, whatever they give you for communication is helpful because, you know, you got to know what they want. So that's what happens a lot with late talkers is they, if for whatever reason happens, and sometimes it's hard to know why without being there and all that stuff, and Yusuf had new siblings come, there were differences in moving and people in his environment, you know, things like that. All different kinds of things happen that cause kids to sort of stop talking or have a break, or literally it's a change in their communication because he never stopped communicating with you. He just stopped using words to do it.
Yeah, but and that he would just stop using those words, though, it seems so peculiar. I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like, I mean, because it is really scary and frustrating.
Yeah. 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 And what's cool about my program is that I help parents get their kids talking, and then I give you all the strategies to do in the whole circumstance. So, like in your case, you just had a trip to go to a country where you don't speak the language, that,
Yeah.
you know, it's your husband's family. They're all speaking Arabic and you don't speak Arabic, but
No.
Mohammed speaks some Arabic.
Yeah. And both of my kids started speaking Arabic while we were there.
Yeah.
And Yusuf is still using some Arabic words and terminology now that we're back. And Kira, who helps me sometimes in my home, what's the funniest thing is both of my children started saying Kira instead of Kira. They changed the consonant of the R because they were so used to hearing that and the different vowel sounds.
Kira, that's
Yeah,
so fun.
I
Yeah.
know both of them can hear even these little nuances in language, and it's just, yeah. I feel so,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm emotional over watching the last mom that just got a diagnosis, because that's kind of like what I wanted to avoid for myself. I mean, how it was so terrifying having a teacher tell me, oh, you know, I think your son's autistic, and then having a ABA therapist say like, oh yeah, your kid's definitely like, this definitely looks like autism, and I'm thinking, but I deal with him just fine, and I feel like I get it. You know, I don't feel like he's really. I just want him to be prepared for life. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's it. And that's what's good about using learning verbal communication and helping kids shift, because that's what you've had to do is help Yusuf shift from his nonverbal communication, because like we said, he was definitely communicating with you, but it
Yeah.
just was all nonverbal stuff. It was behaviors and signs and pointing and things like that. And you showed him how to shift those behaviors into the words that you knew that he had inside. And
Yeah.
that's the best thing is, you know, and just like Mariah said, these kids have the words in there. They understand you. They can follow directions. They just don't have access to them. They don't know how to use them for communicating their ideas. And they're always going to go to what they know. And that's the signs and nonverbal communication. So now
Yeah.
you're in the process of making that shift, and that's what's
Yeah,
so
and
great.
I mean, right now his language, his verbal communication, he's more articulate with the things he wants, and he's using more words. but I'm still only occasionally hearing him start to use like what I think you kind of term as natural language, or using language to tell me how he's feeling,
Yeah.
what's going on, you know?
Yeah. So, well, but it will come because it's all a developmental process. So, first you have to let him know that words work for utility purposes. You know what I mean? It always happens that we learn things that we need before we learn the things that are more fun because we're solving problems here. Mom doesn't understand what I'm communicating. Now mom understands what I'm communicating. And so now this is a perfect time for you to get on a meeting and, we'll talk more about how to encourage more of that natural
Yeah,
talking and get
meeting
it
is
going.
right now, right? 12 o'clock
Meetings at noon, yep, today.
at noon today.
So, yep, that's why I wanted to do this live. So, all right, Nancy, I'm
What
going to
was
pop
the name
you off.
of the mom? The mom of the kid?
Mariah,
Mariah.
Mariah.
Mariah, I swear my son just sounds just like, he even kind of looks like him. Like if I tell him, say hi, he's like, he starts to talk, he starts to interact. It's totally normal. Like, anyway, all right. Thank you so much, Marcy. See you in a little bit.
All right, cool, Nancy. All right, I'm going to pop Nancy off and see if there's anybody else who wants to join me. Yeah, it was just Mariah. Thank you. And all right, so I know that there's some other moms here who are watching. And there's Taylor. Thanks so much for joining me today, everybody. I really enjoy these live Q&As. This is why I do them, is because I really want other parents to know that, my mission in life is to, I worked 30 years to figure it out, but it is really to help parents understand, parents like Nancy and Mariah, understand that it, there are many, many things that cause late talking. And when you understand what it is that is actually causing your child to have this resistance to verbal communication. And sometimes it's because they're already in habits or they've learned nonverbal communication habits and they get stuck in that because you are encouraging these nonverbal things, and if you feel like your kid's on a path going towards, in the intervention that you're getting, the speech therapy, the everything, towards nonverbal kinds of communication, then you need to understand that you can do it. Parents all over the world, I have 30 parents in my program in 10 countries, and they are all seeing new language. And they have diagnoses: ASD, apraxia, global developmental delay, expressive receptive language disorder, auditory processing problems, sensory processing disorder. All of these kinds of diagnoses are being presented to me with these kids who are late talking. And it always comes down to, at a certain period of time, they didn't get verbal speech and they've shifted into nonverbal communication. So here's Jeanette. Hey, Jeanette, let's see. Are you there? Maybe you can join me real quick. I've got a little time before my meeting. Let's see if you me and we can, I think I picked you. Yeah. Oh, wait. Was that you I picked? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Here
Is
we
me
are.
again?
Uh,
Did you mean to
it's
do that?
Nancy again. Sorry, I meant to pick Jeanette. Bye, Nancy.
Bye.
It's hard for me to see the thing. I'll see. Okay, let's see if I can add Jeanette. There. I'm going to do it this way. Trying to figure out the Facebook Live. I'm all technology here. I have a new phone, and it seems to be working pretty great. So, and there's Nikki who says major results with Marcy. Thank you, Nikki. Nikki had a late talker who also was on the path toward diagnosis, and Nikki decided to cut it off and start working with her kiddo herself and see some improvement. So, hey, is that Jeanette?
Hi.
Hi,
Yes.
Jeanette. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can, yeah. So tell me about your son. How old is he?
He's 3, and we're doing biomedical interventions. And last March he was only labeling.
Okay.
Actually last January. In March he started putting 2 words together, and
Okay.
then this summer he is actually starting to say 5-word phrases. But it's
Right on.
been tooth and nail trying to get him in. Originally, when we went to speech therapy to be evaluated, she was saying it was definitely not asphyxia. She was saying it was more like he just didn't know at the time that words had meaning.
Right.
So basically, you just label 1, 2, 3, this and that, but he didn't understand like you use them to communicate. So yeah, so we're stuck. He's starting to communicate a little bit, but just he has made lots of progress in the last 6 months, but he does get stuck. And now that we don't have speech anymore, because I just found out our insurance will not cover it, and his school program is not good at all. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking for ways I can help him and try to figure out how to get him to communicate more with
Yeah,
us.
so this is a great time for you to look into language facilitation and learning how to be his communication coaches at home, his language facilitators. So in your case, what usually happens when kids, I call it kind of coming out of the fog, is what typically happens with the biomedical kinds of stuff. Whatever it was, the heavy metals, whatever it is that you've detoxed him from, for that period of time caused him to have difficulty processing and learning what language is and how it works and everything. I have a couple families in my program that are in the middle of that, and evolving through it in all different kinds of ways. And you're right, what the detox does is allow that child to be able to focus and listen to communication in ways that they couldn't when they were, before you started your intervention. But the problem is there was that gap of period of time that he didn't process language. And the way that we learn natural language is we learn words in the moment. So there were all those moments that he learned other things from you, potty training, eating, walking, all the other things that you taught him. You've shifted into teaching him in a visual, physical way, because just telling him to do things wasn't working. He wasn't processing it like that. So now you've combined your talking with the physical demonstration and showing him things you've done. And that's enabled him to learn that, okay, words are effective for communication, like I was telling before, for utility purposes. Like, I know that I can use words to get what I want. I know that I can make things start and stop, which is a major first step, because you understand that words work for utilities, but you don't, it's very difficult to teach that natural social communication outside of natural communication contexts. So what I do is I coach parents in how to change how you're talking in your everyday circumstances and how you're responding to the kind of communication that he's using. Because if he's using words for utility purposes, but not for those fun cuddles, shared experiences, that kind of stuff, he is using something else to communicate those things. He is cuddling, he probably has eye contact, he has, that kind of stuff with you. He just doesn't know how to use words. So what the kind of coaching that you would need would be strategies to show him how to learn those things in natural circumstances. And that's what I teach parents in my Waves of Communication program. Have you, Jeanette, seen my free class on my website?
I've not gone into it, but I've seen where you have it offered. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Check it out. It's a free 40-minute class, and you can see how I talk about how that happens and how kids get stuck in that circumstance. And you can also see some more details about how the program works and the nuts and bolts and everything. And if it resonates with you and you think, then you can schedule a free consult with me on the phone with your husband. We can talk out the whole process, the whole circumstance, all the situation you are, and I can tell you exactly how the program will work for you. And then your husband can be there, you can hear the whole thing and figure it out, because if you're looking at some kind of an investment in communication work anyway, this could be the way for you guys to go. Because what's great about my program is you learn how to be so let's say he does start communicating and he has articulation problems. It's a lifetime program. So no matter what pops up in your whole process, teaching him how to be social in communicating, not just with you, but with his friends and at school and, all the people at church, everywhere you go, giving you the exact strategies to show him how to branch that communication into the natural communication. Because outside of speech therapy, speech therapy can't do that. That's what I figured out as a therapist, is when I started working in families' houses and I was all working on the utilitarian speech, that was great, but it wasn't helping families solve these frustrations and tantrums and meltdowns and things like that happen when kids are frustrated because they don't
Yeah.
have the words. So is your son getting frustrated by his lack of communication?
No, because I'm pretty
Intuitive?
connected to him. Yeah. So I know when things are getting to that point, so I don't let him get to a certain point. So
That's great.
he actually hasn't had very many meltdowns in the last year because I figured out when he started having them last year, about this time, he really started having a lot of meltdowns, and I kind of learned quickly his body language and his everything, like he's starting to get frustrated. So I nipped that in the
Yeah.
bud and try to help him.
And that's super amazing that you've been able to do that. And I think it's a really good indicator of a good language facilitator parent, because part of this whole process is understanding and acknowledging the kinds of communication that he is doing. Like you said,
Mhm.
you can see it coming before the tantrum hits, so you know how to diffuse the situation, because he
Mhm.
has communicated to you somehow, like you said, with his body language, with his mannerisms, with the words or sounds he's making,
Yeah.
that are nonverbal. The problem is you're the only one that gets it because you're the mom.
Right. I say that I'm his translator to people because
It's
not only
so
am I
common.
reading his body language, but I'm pretty much one of the only people that can understand the words that he does say and all that stuff. So,
And you're connected that way. And so that's a big deal, that, it really does take you to help kids transfer those nonverbal behaviors, because you're the only one that understands point A. You know what I mean? The speech therapist, any speech therapist, especially a new one, is going to take a long time at 30 minutes a session or 60 minutes a session to figure that stuff out. And
Mhm.
then they don't also have the circumstances in your household that,
Right.
of where you need the help. And that's what we would talk about in, my program, is what kinds of stuff are you having problems with at your house? Like, where do you wish I wish you could learn how to do this.
Okay.
And that's what we focus on, instead of getting him to say more words or imitate more things or use his mouth, or that he knows how to do all that. He knows how to
Yeah.
say words. He has the motor means to do that. What you need is the language facilitation strategies. So yeah,
Okay.
so check out my class and see how it looks. And like I said, schedule a free session and book a time when your husband can be there, because you need to ask all your questions, get all your
Mhm.
concerns about how it all works and everything out. And then you can make a decision if you want to get started. So,
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
all right. Thanks for joining me, Jeanette. All right. There's a
Bye.
few more people on. Let's see. How much time do I have? I've got a few more minutes. Let's see if there's anybody else who is wanting to join. All right. Adi, if you can join me, because I want you to say your name so that I can understand. There's Summer. Hi, Summer. Thanks for saying hi. Hey, I hope this video is helping you. I really enjoy, this is what I love to do on these strategy sessions. So if you have watched my free class, if you haven't watched my free class, and the information I'm talking about right now and the problems these parents have are resonating with you, you think they are like my free class, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the description after this if you're watching the replay. You should definitely check out my free class and schedule a strategy session with me so that we can do this. Bring your husband, join me, ask all your questions, tell me about what's happened so far, and I can let you know if you're on the right track, and if not, what you can potentially do or what you might need to work on. So I didn't see like that was going to happen. See if I can invite her to come on. Adi, see if you can join me. So let's see. Oh, she doesn't want to. All right. Then let's see if there's anybody else. Nobody else who is request. Oh, there's somebody. Yeah. Let's see if I can add Faria. Come on. There. Let's see if Faria can join me. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. This has had a nice views, and I really enjoy talking to parents and helping them figure out their situation. That's my favorite part of my job. And it's actually how I ended up starting to be a consultant. Is I would spend so much time with my families. Oh, she declined too. I would spend so much time with my families talking to the mom, the kids. That's why, and when I started doing that, that's when people really started to make big gains, because I was solving the problems that they were having in their home. So, all right. So I think what I'm going to do is pop off of here. This has been going on for a while now. Thanks so much for joining me. And if you're catching the replay, thanks for watching. I appreciate all your likes and views. And I'll tell you what, next Thursday, I'll be back on again, doing this again. I think I'm going to try to make it a weekly thing, since this was so fun and had some nice improvement, some helpful connection with families. I'm going to go ahead and be on next Thursday again, the same time at 11 o'clock, right before my community meeting, and talk to some parents, help you figure out what might be going on. And you can join me next week to ask more questions then. And if until then, I'm sure that I'll be on, because I'm doing a hot topic of the week, and I do videos in my language facilitation group for parents. My mission is to help as many parents as possible teach your children how to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world. And I do that in my Waves of Communication program and my language facilitation resources group for parents. So check out both of those things. I'll put the links in the description when I put it up for the replay. And have a wonderful November, everybody. I'll see y'all soon on my next video.